Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
The San Diego Council on Literacy brings you Literacy for All with your host, Jose Cruz.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jose Cruz from the San Diego Council on Literacy. You're listening to the Literacy for All radio show on WS Radio. And this is a little bit different because we're all kind of in quarantine. This is April 9, 2020, and so we're not actually in the studio. So I'm doing my part of the interview by phone. And on the other line, I'm hoping, is our guest for the next hour, Nora Chahbazi. She's the founder and president of Evidence-Based Literacy Instruction. Nora, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jose. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
So glad to have you. We'll work on your volume because you're coming in a little bit light for me, so make sure you're talking into the phone. I hope I'm coming through loud and clear. Anyway, I have to tell you, just looking at the name of your organization, you have the best name in the world. And so I want to talk to you about that and how your approach to literacy instruction is evidence-based, and maybe just the history of you forming your organization. I know you have a bit of history that you wanted to share with us, just related to, I think at one time you were a nurse, and somehow you got into what you're doing today, and we'll talk more about your organization. But tell us your story.
Okay. Back in 1997, my middle daughter, I have three girls, I had gone to school for parent night, and up on the wall in the hallway was one of her writing pieces, and it was horrifically misspelled to the point where I couldn't read it at all. It was, on construction paper, and there was a picture and all, and the teacher came out in the hallway, and I'd been volunteering in her classroom, and I had tears running down my face because I thought, what's wrong with my child? They'd recently told me she was gifted and talented because she was in the 98th percentile in math, and but in the same test she was a year below grade level in reading. So I was very confused because she always got 100% on her spelling test, but her writing was really horrific. So the teacher said, "Oh, don't worry about her writing. She'll be fine, and it all will be well." Well, at the time I had been a neonatal intensive care nurse for about 10 years, and we had recently, as a family, moved back to Michigan from Guam. We were with the Navy, and so I hadn't gone back into nursing yet, and so I didn't feel comfortable with them saying, "Oh, she'll be fine and she'll grow into learning how to spell and write." And she also struggled with reading. She could read anything that they had memorized in class, but if I tried to get her to read something new or different, my very mild-mannered child would throw the book across the room. So I began to research reading a little bit obsessively, I must admit, and for about 6 months. And I would buy programs, I would read research, I would read a lot of books, I would go to schools and even observe in the classrooms, which they let me do in the remediation. And none of it really made sense until one day I learned of a place in East Lansing, Michigan here, where in 12 hours they were moving students out of special ed and their highest potential in reading and all. So I called the reading center and I spoke to the owner and I said, "What are you teaching? Are you teaching phonics? Are you teaching whole language? What is this?" And she said, "No and no. The research shows exactly what you need to do to teach somebody to learn their highest potential in reading, but we don't teach it in colleges." And she was a college professor, actually. So she said, we aren't teaching this to teachers in college. And so she told me about a book called Why Our Children Can't Read and What You Can Do About It. Still one of my favorite books after all these years of reading. And I got the book in the mail because it wasn't out in bookstores yet, and I read the entire thing, and it was the first thing I got my hands on that really made sense as far as what to do. And in 3 hours, I taught my daughter to read, in that she came home from school one day with a chapter book, a Bailey Schoolhouse book, and she asked if she could read it. She sat on the couch for 3 hours and read it from cover to cover, which, of course, I was shocked. And she got finished. She told me all about it, and she was, flying from there. So that is how it started. Then I started to tell friends, and they would ask if I would work with their children, because when you talk about kids who are subliterate, basically, almost everybody, if they have more than one child, or sometimes even with one, they have kids who are not at all near their potential with reading. So I would bring them into my house. I would teach them with great results. And then I ended up kind of accidentally opening a reading center because my then husband, who's a doctor, wanted to open a wellness center. And he said, instead of having all these kids come through the house, which I would just volunteer and work with them, why don't you have a room at my wellness center? And we had rented a building, and his wellness center fell through, so I had a whole reading center. So that was back in 1999, and that's kind of how it all started.
Wow, well, what a story! And so you're doing. You were a nurse before. Your daughter was having problems. At what age?
She was 7. She was in 2nd grade.
Okay. And then you did this research. You did not ask yourself, maybe I should go into teaching, or this was my calling, or that what were you thinking that you put yourself in the driver's seat? You really did, and found the right people and the right information.
I don't really think I was thinking, to be honest. I think that I was just doing that automatic mother thing of my child is suffering, and I know she's bright, and I know there must be an answer. And so I just, acted, I think, without thinking, to be perfectly honest. I think it was kind of like divine intervention.
And so you got these results using the things that you researched, and then you worked with your daughter, and in how much time was she on her way again, I guess you could say? Yeah,
3 hours. It was 3 hours of instruction.
And you're, just for our listeners, I mean, and typically you're not going to get those kind of results, or are you?
Well, I thought when the person from East Lansing told me about her reading center that in an average of 12 hours they got kids really reading well, that was a little far-fetched. But actually, at our reading center it's 12 hours or a little bit less, and most everyone that comes here are struggling readers. Mostly what we do is we train teachers and teach them how to teach the system I created. And at schools, the gains are very atypical, very unusual, and very fast. So, when you're teaching really what the research says you need to do to teach anybody to read to their highest potential, and you're delivering it at a way that's effective and efficient, then pretty much all students move really far, really fast. Of course, children and humans are different, at different levels, but they all can learn to read and read well really very quickly.
So can I ask you, just the center, and I think you said East Lansing, who are the folks you are working with? Are they still around?
Annette Weinshank was the name of the person who ran that center, and she has since retired, and I actually tried to reach out to her about 5 years ago, and she may be, I would say, definitely in her late 70s, maybe 80s at this point. And so, no, I wasn't. I had interacted with her frequently over the years, but no, her center is now closed. It was called the Reading Center in Okemos, Michigan. And then
I think also in the area, I'm just curious because I haven't touched base with her in ages. Lois Bader, does that name ring a bell?
I have heard of it, but I'm not real familiar with her.
Okay, and there's even an assessment tool. That's the Bader. But anyway, that just reminds me I need to see if I can find out whatever happened to Lois. Well, good things are certainly happening in Michigan, and you were one of them doing the research that you did. And then can you tell listeners again the name of the book and the author, and I guess it's still available?
It is, yes. It's called Why Our Children Can't Read and What We Can Do About It. And the author's name is Diane McGinnis.
Very good, Diane McGinnis. And I'm curious now because I'd like to look at that. But I'm trying to be careful with our time because we're a little bit. And I think Wade Taylor, who's helping us out here, he owns the studio. 2 minutes, thank you, Wade. I'm just trying to keep track of time because I didn't want to get you started on something, and then we ran out of time. We're doing this for 4 segments, so this is the first one. But I don't want you to do this in general, but what would you say, just starting off, was your biggest revelation about teaching reading?
My biggest revelation about teaching reading would be that it is a lot more simple than what most of what you would read would have you to say, along with being a lot more complex, if that makes sense. It's a very complex brain work that is going on cognitively with anyone learning to read, but the process that we can do is a lot more simple, not necessarily easy to do, especially for teachers who have learned different things, but it's a lot more simple, and it moves a lot faster than any of us would have ever thought, including with people who are struggling readers and people who have always struggled to read regardless of their age, and that anyone of any age or ability level, as long as they can speak, they can learn to read, and they can learn to read quite well, and it doesn't have to take years or even months when you have really effective, efficient instruction. And so I think that was my biggest revelation, I would say.
Very good. I have some really hot questions to ask, and I know you get these all the time, and I'm not going to surprise you, but we're going to talk a bit about people with learning differences or learning disabilities, and I use that term because it's a legal one, and so talk about dyslexia, and then just really what's going on with our education system, and why when you have a methodology that's working, that you've taught yourself, why that's not transferring over to what we're doing with public education. So that's quite a big fat softball, I think, for you to hit, and really just a good reason, I think, for our listeners to hang on and to stay tuned for our next segment. So we'll come back with that. We've been talking to Nora Chahbazi. She is the founder and president of Evidence-Based Literacy Instruction, and we'll be coming back with Nora. And right after this break, you've been listening to the Literacy for All radio show on WS Radio, the worldwide leader in Internet talk.
Can you help a newborn baby in need? Sometimes the blessing of birth becomes complicated and perilous. Miracle Babies is there to help. Miracle Babies helps moms and dads give their all to their struggling little baby, but still need more. When you give to Miracle Babies, you help them give more. More skin-to-skin care, breast milk, and love. Go to miraclebabies.org and give right now. Be their miracle.
Looking to be a successful entrepreneur? The virtual assistant industry continues to be a top choice for those looking to start their own business. The problem can be how to become a virtual assistant. Many turn to the Bible of the VA industry, the book Virtual Assistant, the series, and it's the perfect guide for office managers, executive assistants, and other administrative professionals looking to make the transition from employee to successful business owner. Go to vatheseries.com to get your copy today.
Small businesses are the lifeblood of America's economy. Every Thursday, SBA Radio interviews industry professionals and is dedicated to provide small businesses with timely insights and innovations. Visit www.sbaradio.us for details.
Homeless veterans and their families are suffering and need our support, but many won't ask or don't know that help is within reach. Veterans Community Services is here to help. Amazingly, about 35% of the homeless in our neighborhoods are veterans with families. Low-income veterans or their friends are encouraged to contact Veterans Community Services and reach out for help with housing and other services. Call now, 800-974-9909.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children. After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
Can you imagine a world without children? A world where children don't play, or dream, or imagine.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children, because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. To learn how you can help, log on to our website, stjude.org.
Donate cash, furniture, clothes, and other gently used household items to Father Joe's Villages and get a nice tax break in April. Every donation is tax deductible. Believe you can make a difference. Be Father Joe. Go to neighborhood.org or call 1-800-HOMELESS to donate today.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
The San Diego Council on Literacy brings you Literacy for All with your host, Jose Cruz.
Welcome back to the show. It's Jose Cruz from the San Diego Council on Literacy. You're listening to the Literacy for All radio show, and we're speaking with Nora Chahbazi. She's the founder and president of Evidence-Based Literacy Instruction. Nora, tell me at what point, having done the research that you had done and the work you'd done with your daughter, and then just working, I guess, with some of the kids in your social network, that you knew you had something that you needed to share, and you talked about opening up the learning centers and starting your own business. But what convinced you? I need to keep doing this.
Well, because the number of people, pretty much everybody I talked to had somebody that was struggling in their life, usually their own child. And then I started talking to teachers, and teachers telling me, and I've trained thousands of teachers now at this point, and telling me, I didn't really learn how to teach reading in college. I learned about reading some and about books and what books to read and that type of thing. But really, especially if I have a child that's struggling with reading, I really don't have any idea how to teach them. So I ended up getting trained in a program called phonographics, and we had used that at our reading center. And even before I opened my reading center, actually, I trained teachers in it. And it's really for one-on-one. And I was finding that though it works really well for remediation and anybody struggling with reading, classroom teachers really needed something also. So I began training teachers, and just really, it took me many years before I admitted how powerful what this instruction that really works is, even though I had seen it over and over, and with teachers, noticing that. So I think that seeing the scores, like 30-point gains on state tests in different grade levels with teachers that we had trained, and just kids coming out of special ed who had been in special ed for years, just results that have really never been heard of in a time frame that was a lot shorter than what is typical. And so I just kept thinking, this is very strange that this is this powerful, and why isn't this happening everywhere? I would ask myself that question too.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And so here's a question I want to ask, because I did major in English. I did get a teaching credential. I remember in my last year of school reading Why Johnny Can't Read, and it just happened. I mean, I could have picked any book out there, and I was the only person in my class who picked that book, and I did a report on it, and it left quite an impression on me. But as you know, it's very strong on phonics. And then you have me a year later or so going into the teaching program, and this is why I become I get a single subject credential in English, and the idea is that I'm going to teach reading. But I don't, like you're saying, I don't actually recall anyone really working with me to teach reading. I knew what I knew, but in terms of an intensive reading program for people who are going to be teaching reading, you can't really say that it happened in the way that I hear you describing it for other teachers. Am I right in saying it's the norm that we're not preparing teachers to teach reading?
Yes, that is true. It is shifting a little bit, really even in just the last year or so. But in all the time that I've been doing this work, that has been very much the case, yes. And teachers work so hard doing everything that they've been taught to do, and many of them have often more than half their class, struggling. But yes, they aren't typically given what they need in college to be able to teach all of their kids to read.
And so I'm just wondering what could be the causes, and we're coming with conspiracies and such. Is it the reading wars? Is it phonics versus whole language? Is it a lot of money being spent on a publication of materials that prepare teachers to be teachers, but it's too much about money and it's too much about politics. Why aren't people, and we're going to come back to your methodology, but why aren't people being taught what you taught yourself, being taught a methodology that, and we'll come back to the evidence-based piece of this, that is working? Why is that happening? And I hate to put that on you, but you probably have to look at it.
No, that's a million-dollar question that a lot of people talk about, And I think you hit on some of it. I think that the main points are that it's about power and politics and ego and money. Those are the main ones. And there's a huge disconnect also between the colleges of education and then the colleges like of cognitive psychology, and where there's an awful lot of rich research showing what happens in the brain to learn to read. And there's a huge disconnect where what's happening with all this great research on how the science of reading and how someone learns how to read and read well, and the people who are actually required to deliver it, which are our teachers. They're not getting that information because these two groups on college campuses, basically, they don't interact. And they have a lot of disdain for each other. I've heard from both people in the cognitive sciences as well as in education, and you read a lot about that. So all this great research is not getting to the people who need it the most. And then there's resistance from I think a lot of times the people who teach in the colleges of education and it is the reading wars and all of that. But it's become into light a lot more about we really need to quit doing this because who are in the crosshairs of this are our children and our teachers, and we're remaining at 35 to 40% proficiency at literacy, in which has been the same way all the years I've been doing this, over 20 years. So we're not making any progress, and so the fighting of it is not the key. But how do we connect so that everybody can get what they need, and that the teachers will have what they need to teach the kids to read. But there's a lot of reasoning for it, and I think power, politics, and ego and money cover the majority of them.
Yeah, that might be a surprise to some people. I have a few questions. I'm trying not to stack them up. One of them is just the message. And here we are in quarantine. We're in the time of Corona, and we're asking our leadership to put the politics behind. We're asking people to invest with each other. We're all in this together. Do this for the good, for people being healthy and such. And I'm hearing the same thing. This is coming to mind that let's forget about our egos and such. We have children that we want to come out of school, 3rd grade, 4th grade, being able to read what they want, and we're still stuck in some adult issues that are getting in the way of young people achieving the way that we want them to. So my next question really is, do the teachers in general recognize that they are under-equipped to do the job that they're being asked to do? What were they doing, for example, before they found you?
I would say typically, no, they didn't have that awareness. They were working really hard doing what they paid a lot of money to learn how to do, and also got more of in professional development and that type of thing. Really an overarching theme when I train teachers, and like I said, we've trained thousands and thousands of teachers, like, oh my gosh, I had no idea, first of all, that there was a science of reading. They had no idea that there was even a science of reading, or that there was a way to teach their kids to read and get to these struggling readers. They're very confused about that, oftentimes angry, and oftentimes looking back at like, wow, if I'd have known this, all these however many years I was teaching, imagine how that would be different, and why didn't they teach us this? So mostly the teachers do not know that they haven't been taught, and what they have been taught is typically, keeping our kids at that, 30 to 40% of them are proficient at reading type of thing. And the majority of what teachers have been taught in the 20-some years I've been doing this is to have kids have a love for reading. Now, none of us could argue for having a love for reading, of course, I would hope. But what they're missing is they're telling kids they're wanting to get to the love of reading without teaching the kids how to actually read. Kind of like saying, ride a bike without being taught how to ride a bike, or drive a car without being taught how to drive a car, kind of thing. So will be in kindergarten giving kids books and telling them to look at the picture to figure out what the words are, or to guess, or to put in what they think makes sense. Those are the number one strategies that are used in most classrooms across the country, and we work across the country. So doing those things, and then some of the kids will pick up and they will do fairly well, but many and often the majority will not.
Yeah, and so we're stuck. We're stuck, and again, my questions are stacking up, and I'm glad we have an hour with you, because things that are supposed to be happening are not. Can you? And I'm not saying this is the thing, but you mentioned phonographics. Is that an extension? Is that an element of what you're doing in your instruction?
I would say phonographics. What I taught and trained teachers in phonographics for 4 years, and I absolutely attribute much of what I know and the foundation of what I know to phonographics. And again, I didn't figure out how to teach reading. I found, I guess, that those foundational things of what the research says, and phonographics was very good about that. Phonographics was really focused on doing one-on-one and a lot on the phonemic awareness and phonics piece, not as much moving it into the reading piece, which is really important, as well as, vocabulary and fluency comprehension and all of that type of thing. So with phonographics, I found at about 2002 that it wasn't covering what I needed for the classroom teachers. It was great for, like, my reading center that I have for working one-on-one. It did very well to move these kids and that type of thing. But it needed a more holistic approach, also including dealing with spelling and writing and handwriting.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on hold right now. I do want to come back to phonographics and phonics and a few other things, but we're going to have to take a break. We are talking to Nora Chahbazi. She is the founder and president of Evidence-Based Literacy Instruction. So many questions. This is really good content, Nora, and we're going to make sure our listeners, our people in our network get this information.
Nowadays, internet devices are an integral part of your home. Everyone in your family has a smartphone, tablet, or a computer. Life is easier knowing that all your devices are secured and your family can surf the internet carefree. ESET Multi-Device Security Pack does just that. One license for all your devices. With ESET, it's simple to stay protected and save money. Enjoy safer technology with ESET Multi-Device Security Pack at ESET.com. That's ESET.com.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page. mozeguitars.com, 619-698-1185.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McCullough brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcCullough.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McCulloughe. ChristopherMcCullough.com. Nowadays, internet devices are an integral part of your home. Everyone in your family has a smartphone, tablet, or a computer. Life is easier knowing that all your devices are secured and your family can surf the internet carefree. ESET Multi-Device Security Pack does just that. One license for all your devices. With ESET, it's simple to stay protected and save money. Enjoy safer technology with ESET Multi-Device Security Pack at ESET.com. That's ESET.com. Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McCullough brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcCullough.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McCulloughe. ChristopherMcCullough.com.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
The San Diego Council on Literacy brings you Literacy for All with your host, Jose Cruz.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Jose Cruz from the San Diego Council on Literacy. You're listening to WS Radio, and our guest is Nora Chahbazi. She is the founder and president of Evidence-Based Literacy Instruction. Nora, just in a couple of words, the definition of phonographics.
Phonographics?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, phonographics actually means sound picture. Phono, sound, graphics, picture. That's what, when phonographics, when I took that, that's really what their definition is. They very strong focus on speech-to-print phonics, which EBLI is also. So that means instead of looking at a letter and saying M says that type of thing, and going from the letter first, you go from the sound first. What are the sounds in mat or something like that? At.
Mm-hmm.
So sound pictures. So we say sounds, there's symbols in print or pictures that represent them, which is our letters in English.
And so would you say this is the, you and I haven't talked about this. I mean, it's really easy to say, right? I'm a real phonics person. And you're probably going to tell me that's not the main thing, the only thing, or is it? Is it the backbone of evidence-based literacy instruction? Quite often we'll hear from folks, and they'll say, whatever works for that person. But we have to go with that. But I have to feel like phonics is a big part of the solution. Yes, no, big part of what you're doing.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. I mean, phonics just is talking about we say a sound and there's a symbol in print to represent it. So we don't talk about phonics with EBLI as far as all the rules and exceptions to rules, which causes a lot of confusion for kids and also takes a really long time to teach, someone to read when you're moving through all of that. So phonics is like, if you think of a car, the engine would be the phonics. It's very important. If you don't understand the code, a lot of kids will teach themselves the code. And when I say a lot, I mean less than the majority. But many kids will figure it out, that this is a code. We're saying sounds, there's symbols or letters that represent them. I get it. So they figure out, they kind of put their own engine together. And then, when you have the fluency and the comprehension and understanding what the words mean and all of that beauty of the love of reading, that's your car. That's the body of your car and all of that. We do not want to say, I'd like the engine but not the car, or I want the car and not the engine. That's not going to work in either situation. You need to have them together. So we need to teach our kids how this code works, what the code is. It's only fair, right? We also need to teach our teachers that, how this English alphabetic code works. And there is a logic to it. And it can be taught quite quickly, which a lot of people don't have that realization. But then we need to apply it. We don't want to have all kinds of phonics with no reading in books. And we don't want to have all kinds of reading in books without teaching our kids how the code works, because it is not going to get us to the highest potential for our readers at all.
Very good. So your approach is called evidence-based literacy instruction. What is the evidence in your evidence-based literacy instruction? Let's go there.
Yes, that's a very good question. Well, the research shows, and has shown really for almost the last 50 years, new research comes out, of course, all the time, but for the last 50 years, the research has shown exactly what you need to do to teach somebody to read to their highest potential, what they need to know, what the foundational pieces need to be, how you need to actually apply them in reading and writing so that then they can actually grow type of thing. So the evidence is based on what the research shows you need to do to teach somebody to read their highest potential. So for those 6 months where I was researching reading, I was reading the research. What are they saying that you need to have? What are these pieces? And I was getting all these pieces, but what was missing is, like, how do you actually do it, So this is what we know, and this is what we know is going on in the brain, and this is what EBLI is. And really over the last almost 20 years since I've created EBLI, is what we have done is provide the bridge from all of this phenomenal research that is out there that many educators don't even know about, but many are starting to learn about now. How do we get that bridge to application in the classroom with our actual children? And that's what EBLI is really spectacular at doing.
Wonderful. And, I just remember making a visit to, oh my goodness, what's the name of that school out in New Jersey? Rutgers? And visiting the National Center for the Study of Adult Literacy and Learning, Hal Beater, who they do research there. And he said, our job is to do research. Our job is not to tell you what to do with it. And so we need that translator, somebody who has done the research that you've done, and create that bridge so that you do have an understanding of what the research is saying, and then creating an approach, a packaging that people can use. So thank you for doing that work for us. Do you have a summary or a book that you've written or a curriculum that you use as a standard for working with the teachers?
Yes, we do. We have, EBLI, the majority of what we do is we do teacher training. I have not written a book, so I've written lots of manuals and lessons and all of that for the teachers. What we do is we provide the teachers with, background, basically, about why you're doing what you're doing, as far as based on what the research says you need to do and why you need to do it, and then the how you do it, okay, and why you're doing it. Why am I going to go for the sound and not the letter name? Why am I going to do that when I'm teaching, in the process of that reading instruction stuff? Why am I going to separate those blends to the smallest unit of sound? Why am I doing these things? So not only the why, then also the what. And so what now do I do? What does this look like with my children? So what we do is we have teacher training and student lessons combined online for teachers now, where they are doing the learning and the training piece and then going right away to teach the lesson that they just learned about. And actually what we also have, too, is where there's videos of me. I'm in a room by myself with a videographer, and I actually teach their students at first, so that we have our teachers decrease that anxiety of like, oh, my gosh, all of this learning and something that's so new and different, how do I apply it? So we're having videos where I actually teach their kids, and they are doing the facilitating for them. So we're giving them all of the, this holistic approach of learning it themselves as well as teaching it immediately and getting that repetition, just all the good instruction, just like we teach children.
Wonderful. Now, do you get hired by school districts? And how was that? And I say that because, right? Hey, we're getting these teachers who don't know how to help our students. Our scores are not good. Can you come in and train our teachers? Is there a lot of that happening?
That is all that we have. So we don't advertise at all. We only have people who find out about us from other schools and places who have used our instruction, and we're from coast to coast. And so they will, some people aren't ready to do teaching the way that we are. They're even if their scores are not the best, they're not ready. So we don't go out and try to get them to come to us. People who are, they come, and we provide the training for them. We provide support we've moved really to mostly online teacher training and instruction so that we can both scale it up and be really systematic with making sure that everybody gets everything. And also, instead of having it in 3 days, we have it across the whole year. So it's not so much of a load of learning for our teachers. So, yes, schools come to us. Sometimes individual people will come to us and pay on their own, and they really are just like, I've got to do something different. But typically it's schools or districts that will come, and we actually have a district out in California, Kings County. They, throughout their whole county, actually, we have teachers that are trained, and they have a 5-year plan that they are doing. So, yes, they approach us, and we find out what their needs are, and then we tell them, what we have that will help them, the particular trainings and that type of thing, whether it's remediation training or whole class training, if they're classroom teachers, whatever.
So you're not gonna waste your time trying to convince anyone. You have enough people who are asking you to help them out versus you probably could do this, and you're going to have folks that are going to be resistant because of things being done this way. We're not going to change how we're doing things. So I'm just glad that
you're resistant. They won't. They won't change. They're just not ready.
Gotcha.
And so they'll waste time and energy and money doing something that the teachers just aren't ready to do. And a lot of times we also ask them to pilot, to start small, to have a few people, because again, EBLI, even if they're, teachers will say, oh, I teach phonics, this is going to be easy, and then they get a little like, oh my gosh, this is a very different, the speech to print and the way that we process and the speed that we teach at, is very different from really what any teachers have learned before.
Man, amazing. So who are your biggest promoters? Who are the people who are talking most about you? Is it the teachers? Are they talking to other teachers? How's this getting, the word getting out about the work that you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Almost everyone that comes to us from teachers or administrators who have benefited from EBLI. Of course, parents. A lot of times parents whose children have been taught EBLI, they have, educator family and friends, and they talk about it. Our educators and parents are very, they love. One teacher told me, oh my gosh, I went and grabbed my binder. I was down on the beach and somewhere, I don't know, up north in Michigan, and somebody was asking about it. She actually had her binder with her on vacation and went and grabbed it and was showing this person. So people, and administrators, superintendents, principals, curriculum directors, they go to their conferences, or their, nearby school district will say, wait, how did your state scores go up so much this year? What are you guys doing? And then they come and sometimes will observe what they're doing, and then they're interested in that too. So, yeah, that's pretty much how we get almost everybody.
Very good. Well, I'm glad the word's getting out. We have one more segment. Yep, we have one more segment after this one, and we're going to get to just some questions about dyslexia and how to get in touch with Nora if you're a listener, if you want more information. But we have been talking to Nora Chahbazi. She is the founder and president of Evidence-Based Literacy Instruction, and you've been listening to the Literacy for All radio show on WS Radio, the worldwide leader in Internet talk. We'll be right back.
I've heard this is like one of the best pizza spots in town.
Yes, it is.
I'll do a slice of pepperoni, slice of vegetarian.
You got it.
And I will pay for all of that in 3 days.
In 3 days?
What's that mean? Well, wait, you accept credit cards. That money's not going to hit your account for 3 days anyway.
I need my money quicker.
At Chase, we hear you. With Express Funding, card payments are in your Chase account the next business day. Go to chase.com/expressfunding. Chase for business, so you can.
Compensated participation. All businesses are subject to credit approval. Not all clients are eligible for next business day funding, and additional terms, conditions, and restrictions apply.
Donate cash, furniture, clothes, and other gently used household items to Father Joe's Villages and get a nice tax break in April. Every donation is tax deductible. Believe you can make a difference. Be Father Joe. Go to neighborhood.org or call 1-800-HOMELESS to donate today.
Life is full of misadventures, from car crashes to home fires to getting choked out on the mat. Yes, I said getting choked out because I'm Carlos Kramer, jiu-jitsu competitor, MMA and media personality, and mild-mannered insurance agent. You can follow my adventures on Kick-Ass Radio, and I can protect you from life's misadventures at Kramer Insurance. Home, auto, life, business, and workers' comp. We're at KramerINS.com, and I want you to join my world.
This is Bill Gruber with BizVid Communications, a Southern California video production leader. We've been honored to sponsor, produce, write, and host many of the fine programs on WS Radio over the years. So we understand how important the internet and your website exposure are. As video producers, we know the tricks and secrets to incorporate video to increase your search engine optimization and business success. Visit bizvidcommunications.com to see what we can do for you. BIZVID communications.com.
Too much to do? Not enough time to get it done? Call on the experts at Another 8 Hours for your business support needs. By partnering with Another 8 Hours, we allow you to focus on the more important matters, like being in front of your clients, doing what you do best, rather than being stuck at a desk poring over paperwork, rummaging through emails, returning phone calls, and struggling to get everything done by yourself. Meanwhile, your family and social life are going down the drain. Go to another8hours.com or call 8 more hours. That's 866-734-6877.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, VinVillage.com, where wine lovers connect. Be sure to tune in weekly to Vin Village Radio for exclusive, in-depth interviews with the who's who in wine and food.
Can you imagine a world without children? A world where children don't play, or dream, or imagine?
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children. Because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. To learn how you can help, log on to our website, stjude.org.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
The San Diego Council on Literacy brings you Literacy for All with your host, Jose Cruz.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Jose Cruz from the San Diego Council on Literacy. You're listening to the WS Radio show, and we've been talking to Nora Chahbazi. She's the founder and president of Evidence-Based Literacy Instruction. Nora, we're going to have listeners that say, look, I have a student severely dyslexic, whatever that means, because I know it means different things to different people. How is this program? I mean, right, I'm going to, my student, my son, my daughter, they're going to learn to address their learning challenges in 3 hours? How do you answer that question?
Well, no, all humans are different. So 3 hours for many kids, definitely. That could be, and other times, I mean, we've had kids that we've worked with for a handful, I would say not even more than 100 hours or more. But typically it's many hundreds of hours as far as for dyslexics. And we have worked with many dyslexic kids, of course. And it's typically not 3 hours, but often, 12 to 24. But each child is different, and it depends on also what their bad habits are, what they, all of that type of thing. But I think it's interesting to there was a research study that was done by University of Washington. Jason Yateman is the researcher, about a year ago, where he did brain imaging of instruction it's Lindemood, which Lindemood actually trained the people that made phonographics, and then we got EBLI. So the Pat Lindemood method, Lindemood Bell it's called, they did 100 hours of instruction with severely dyslexic and a variety of dyslexic students, and did brain scans pre and post, and found that there were tremendous areas of growth in the brains, basically, so that they looked more like non-dyslexic readers when they have that really good enriched instruction that's really effective. I actually called and talked to him on the phone and said, hey, why don't you do some of that brain imaging on EBLI, but they didn't have the funding for that. So he actually is on the board of the International Dyslexia Association, and he said, we did not previously think that dyslexics, that we could change their brain to this degree. So this, that research was really groundbreaking. And I highly recommend that, because that dyslexic question could take up a whole hour for sure.
Oh, sure,
a whole
sure.
Show.
But poor teachers. I have a family friend. She teaches in Florida, and I forget what I was posting on Facebook, but she said, I can't wait until we get Lindemood down here, and it was like something that had just come across her desk that she learned about, but I'm quite familiar with it, and I know that you are too, and a lot of educators are, but there are a lot of folks out there that this is a new thing to them after all these years, so it's a bit sad. So what if I didn't want to be alone? I wanted to be with people who do what you do and teach what you teach. Are there conferences that you go to where some of your teachers and people who do what you do come together?
Yeah, I would say I just went to the Plain Talk Conference in New Orleans earlier this year, which is a spectacular conference. Also, the Reading League Conference, they do theirs up in New York. Those two conferences I absolutely would highly recommend. There's so much focus right now on the science of reading. I also would recommend there's some radio documentaries that APM Reports have done. If people would go to apmreports.org and /reading, they can get the whole list of them. I really recommend At a Loss for Words, which is the most recent one. This has really shifted nationally how we are looking at reading and how reading is taught. It's starting to shift the colleges of education to start to teach the science of reading. There's also a Science of Reading Facebook page. It's called Science of Reading, What I Wish I Would Have Learned in College. and they just that page started in November, and now they have over 21,000 members on there. So it's educators wanting to learn about how do I learn more about this science of reading. But, and there's a wide range of, what people are doing with it. But the core piece is what is this science of reading, and what are the pieces that I need to be sure that I'm teaching so all of my students reach their highest potential? We really should have every classroom, 95 to 100% of students proficient at reading. That's what really, and I'm actually doing a webinar tonight at 7 o'clock where we had schools that have done that, and people from the state level down to the classroom level. And they have accomplished that over a couple of years by changing their practices that they are doing. So it is very much doable and possible.
Very
good.
Sure. I'm so glad it's getting the attention it's getting. The Reading League is getting some, let's call it play out there. More people are learning about the Reading League. And then the whole phrase, the science of reading, is something I've heard more in the last year or so. So it's going to hopefully get the attention of educators who are like, what am I missing here? Before we move on, I want people to, right? Very good. So glad to hear that. We need help. And so how do people get in touch with you, Nora? And then I just have one more question about just how you're dealing with the schools. What you're doing differently since schools have been closed down. But tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you if they want to have questions.
Our website is EBLI, EBLI.com, and they can get information there. We're actually in the midst of a transition. We're going to be having a new website within the next month. But EBLI.com, they can email us at info@EBLI, EBLI.com. And then our Facebook page, really we've been so busy with all this coronavirus, what we're doing with that, that a lot of our stuff we're putting on our Facebook page. And if you just search EBLI, EBLI on Facebook, you will get a lot of that. And then we're EBLI Reads on Twitter.
Very good. I'm looking at some of the things that you've done, I think probably recently. It says here that you have 2,300 families signed up for the free K-3 lessons, and you're teaching live twice a week. And there's more here, read aloud, high-level vocabulary instruction, and online training for teachers. But tell us about the first one, how the families are finding you and getting the help that they would probably get at school. They might not.
Right. Well, I'm very excited about that because I had this thought when I woke up one morning to see how can I, our byline is teaching the world to read. So how can I get to help as many parents and kids and teachers of this whole coronavirus when all these kids are at home? So a couple of weeks ago, I started doing twice a week. I do live online literacy lessons where I teach a kindergarten class, a first grade class, and a second and third, and we have older kids in that one too, classes for about 45 minutes. And it's very interactive. It's very fun and exciting. And we've had, we started out, of course, with a few hundred people, and every day we get a couple hundred more. We're almost at 2,500 families that come on. We have over 300 families, kids that are on live, and then many listen to the recordings. And it's explicit instruction. The kids use a whiteboard and do the stuff that we normally do in a classroom, and we're teaching kids from all over the world. And, we're offering those for free. And asking people if they want to do sponsorships or scholarships to help us, because we're in that whole coronavirus craziness too with our small business. But it's really exciting what's happening with those kids and the learning that's going on with that.
Well, I'm looking that people can sign up to the it says EBLI, Evidence-Based Literacy Instruction Facebook page. That's EBLI.com/free-student-lessons. Correct?
Yep. That will take them to the page, and they can choose either kindergarten, first, or second, or third, or they can choose all of them. Some parents are doing, 2 different grade levels for their kids.
We just have a few seconds left. Any last words from you, Nora, just for our listeners?
No, check out our website. Check out especially our Facebook page, and let us see how we can help you. We are also doing webinars on to help teachers teach online, because we've been doing that for a while with our students too. You can sign up on our Facebook page. There's a little sign-up form that you can sign up to get our newsletters that has all this information that they will get sent to them when we send out our newsletters every week.
very, very good. You've been a wealth of information. We need to bring you back. Give us a little bit of time. But we're so glad to have you, Nora, and just appreciate you and your work. You've been listening to the Literacy for All radio show on WS Radio, the worldwide leader in Internet talk.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children. After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
In the military, things can change in an instant. Your personal life is just the same. Just like you protect our country, you want your family protected. That's why thousands of military members trust Navy Mutual Life Insurance. Navy Mutual is nonprofit, providing current and former Navy, Marine, and Coast Guard families with life insurance, no sales fees, and no military service restrictions. Protecting members on active duty and beyond. Call 1-800-628-6011, 800-628-6011, NavyMutual.org, insuring those who serve.
Nowadays, internet devices are an integral part of your home. Everyone in your family has a smartphone, tablet, or a computer. Life is easier knowing that all your devices are secured and your family can surf the internet carefree. ESET Multi-Device Security Pack does just that. One license for all your devices. With ESET, it's simple to stay protected and save money. Enjoy safer technology with ESET Multi-Device Security Pack at ESET.com. That's ESET.com.
I've heard this is like one of the best pizza spots in town.
Yes, it is.
I'll do a slice of pepperoni, slice of vegetarian.
You got it.
And I will pay for all of that in 3 days.
In 3 days?
What's that mean? Well, wait, you accept credit cards. That money's not going to hit your account for 3 days anyway.
I need my money quicker.
At Chase, we hear you. With Express Funding, card payments are in your Chase account the next business day. Go to chase.com/expressfunding. Chase for business, so you can.
Compensated participation. All businesses are subject to credit approval. Not all clients are eligible for next business day funding, and additional terms, conditions, and restrictions apply.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McAuliffe. ChristopherMcAuliffe.com.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page. MOZEguitars.com, 619-698-1185.